What's up, YouTube? Decided to do a video that might be very important to a lot of you because the global market for tech has been exploding. And I think especially for us in the United States and around the world, we are more aware of how amazing the tech is that is coming from China and from overseas, basically. And so that might leave a lot of people with questions about, well, how do I use these? What's the difference? And how will that affect my day-to-day? And which one should I buy? So in front of you, I have 3 devices, and if you can't tell, obviously this is the Huawei Pura X Max. This is what you would consider a Chinese OS or a Chinese operating system, a full Chinese device. This device does not run Google services natively at all, okay? You have to install certain workarounds on this one. This device can't, it's technically banned in the US, so it doesn't even technically have 5G. It doesn't even show you the 5G symbol. But on this device, depending on the bands available in your area, with Google Fi, Mint Mobile, and T-Mobile, and AT&T, you can get, depending on where you are and what bands are available near you, you can get those 4G and very fast 5G speeds, which I've gotten on this device. There is no, currently for the Huawei Pura X Max, there is no Android Auto support. Now, let me back up. On this device, you might hear a term called global, and you might hear a term called Chinese ROM. And like I said, this is a Chinese OS. Now, Huawei does have what they consider global OS called EMUI, but again, no Google services whatsoever. You have to use workarounds, and even then, everything does not work. But the hardware is next level. But this is more about the software on those devices. No smartwatch compatibility. You can't. It's very hard to get. Google Pay, Google Wallet, non-existent. Can't use it on this phone. I've heard overseas, sometimes people are able to hook up some other overseas credit cards and stuff. But with this one, you're none of that. So this is the most restrictive of all the OSs. Now, in the middle, we have the Oppo X9 Ultra. Specifically, this is the Chinese ROM. Now, Chinese ROM means this thing is running ColorOS 16. But because it's a Chinese ROM, it is optimized for that market. But this thing has full Google services on it. So what you don't get is you won't get your native discovery page. So when you swipe to the left, you don't get the Google discovery page on there. But you can get Google Wallet, Android Auto, smartwatch compatibility for Wear OS is hit or miss. I would say assume that it's not gonna be available on the Chinese OS. I've seen some workarounds where you can enable it, but go into it assuming that you can't use a smartwatch or a Google or Wear OS smartwatch. Now, my workaround for that is if you have a Fitbit. Fitbit works on these devices, and it mimics basically, especially with the Versa 4, I think it is. You get all your notifications and you get all your health tracking stuff. But your traditional smartwatches will not work on a Chinese ROM, potentially without workarounds. You don't get Hey Google does not work on this device. The workaround I have found for this, because Gemini, the app works, all the Google apps work 100%. The only thing that doesn't work on this device is the native Hey Google when you work. So in the Discover page. So what I do on these devices anytime I get them is you install the Google app right there. Boom. When you click that, you immediately get the Discover page that's on there. This is everything that would be on your swipe to left Discover page. And to prove that, this is the Galaxy Z Fold 7, a global version obviously. And as you see, it's the same, you know, slightly different information, but it's the same stuff, just depending on, you know, what's on there. It's the same exact thing. So no, you don't swipe to the left. With this one, you just have to click the button right there. Now, some Chinese ROMs, if you want to use the Google Assistant, they will allow you to, or like Button Mapper. If you use the Button Mapper app, you can map that button to maybe a double click of the power button. See, Oppo was kind of not shady, but they could have, usually this AI button on the side, you can click to make it open up any app, and that's how you do it, because it already have a camera button. But with this one, it's preloaded to certain things, and so you can't put an app. It won't open an app on this one, so it won't work. So if you use Button Mapper, you can remap one of the buttons to double press, and you know, your Hey Google stuff can pop up on it, and it's perfect. Again, same thing with the bands. Google Fi, Mint Mobile, T-Mobile, AT&T all work fine. You'll actually get 5G. It'll show 5G on this. You know, there's no problem. Android Auto, Google Wallet, they work. Now, with the Chinese device with Google Wallet, what will happen sometimes when you go to add credit cards and debit cards is, with the Chinese ROM specifically, sometimes you might have to call your bank, because it'll trigger like a security thing, and they won't go through all the way. But if you call your bank and say, hey, yeah, that was me, I'm trying to add it onto the, into my wallet, they'll see the alert and they'll clear it and let it go, and then you can just re-add it and it'll pop back up. So if you decide to get a Chinese ROM device and you're going through Google Wallet and for some reason your credit card won't work, call your bank, or you might get a security alert text on your phone, and call them, let them know what you're doing, and a lot of times they can go in, clear that security alert, and once you try it again, it'll go through and you won't have any issues working with this device, a Chinese ROM device. Then you have the obvious global version, which is available everywhere. The software is global, you know, so you can use it anywhere, basically. You know, it's full Google. Your Discover page, the Hey Google, everything works on this the way that you would think it should work on a normal Google phone. So when you look at it, as far as functionality you can get out of the devices, your global ROM, your true global ROM, whether it be from Oppo, Vivo, because you can get the Oppo X9, you know, a lot of these new Chinese devices have a global ROM. If you see global ROM, assume you are going to get 100% of functionality with Google. No issues. It'll work with everything. If it's a Chinese ROM, and it specifically say Chinese ROM on the listing, and it should, and if you have any questions, reach out to your seller. If it's at techaday.net, we listed on the listings specifically Chinese ROM. If it's Chinese ROM, assume that you are going to get probably 90 to 95, maybe even higher, but 90 to 95% functionality out of this device. And literally what you're going to be missing would be the guaranteed smartwatch connectivity and the guaranteed built-in, hey Google, circle search type of situations. But even with the circle to search, you've seen, there's sometimes there are workarounds for that. And even for the, hey Google, if you use Button Mapper, you can do that as well. And like I said, you can download Gemini on this device, as you see. So you can put Gemini on this device and it works the same way that it does on a normal phone. I believe, yeah. And then you can even share your, I believe you can share your screen too. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
See, exactly. So you can share your screen to this and show it to Google, ask it questions, the whole nine, for this device. So it's just not natively built in to the Chinese ROM device, but Google Play services are on the device, and it's evident because you can go into device, you go into user and accounts, and as you see, Google is built in to the device. And actually, if you search it, Google Mobile Services, see, it's actually built into the device. So you don't have to work around. It works. The only thing, that won't work on a Chinese ROM device, like I said, guaranteed, is the Google Watch and the, hey Google functionality on these devices. Now, and it's Huawei specifically. If you're considering getting a Huawei device, assume you are going to get, because this is a Chinese OS built specifically without Google. So everything you want to do on this thing with Google, you have to use some type of workaround. So either one of the container apps, that's the only thing you can do on this. And so this one, assume if you're thinking about getting one of these devices, RCS, that's another one. RCS on the Huawei devices, non-existent. Chinese ROM, no problem. Global, obviously no problem. The global Huawei devices, there is a workaround that you can get Android Auto working, but that's really about it. And then, like I said, if you get real deep into the Reddit forums, you can kind of potentially find some workarounds, but Google Wallet, smartwatch connectivity, none of that stuff works. So functionality on a Huawei, either global or non-global device, you're looking at anywhere from, just to be on the safe and conservative side, I would say somewhere between 60 to 75%, depending on what exactly you need and how deep into the Google ecosystem and services you are. So obviously a Huawei device will give you maybe 60 to 70. A Chinese ROM device, especially the newer ones, will give you anywhere from 90 to 95. I mean, really almost like 97, but we'll say 90 to 95. And then a true global version, even if it's a Chinese brand, a global ROM will give you 100% Google functionality, which means the same thing you can do on your Google, on your native phones you bought wherever you're from, you'll be able to do on your Chinese global ROMs, whether it be an Oppo, a Vivo, a Xiaomi, whatever it is. If it's a global ROM, you'll have 100% Google functionality. So if you have any other questions about anything specifically, hit me up in the comments. I can definitely go further and ask this, but all of these devices are great. It's really just about understanding what you need and how each one of these will serve you, and are you okay with the trade-offs and things that you won't get from those devices. Chinese ROMs are generally cheaper than the global ROMs by at least a couple $100, especially if you're coming to techaday.net. The Chinese ROMs will always be cheaper in most cases than the global ROMs. So you have to ask yourself, is it worth saving a few $100 to not have native circle of search or native, Google Assistant built in? Do I use those, features all the time? One more feature, Google Maps. Chinese ROM, global ROM, no problem. On the Huawei device, you can install Google Maps, you can install the location, and it will be hit or miss. It works, it can get shaky sometimes, but you can install it on there in the container app, and it'll work, pretty good. But Google Maps on a Chinese ROM, Google Maps on a global ROM works 100% out the box. And then the only other thing I can think of, especially with the Chinese ROM, that I'm finding are notifications, alerts, battery optimization on the Chinese ROMs are optimized for that market, and their standards for that stuff are very different than what we have here, especially in the States and anywhere else in the world. So they have very super strict battery management. So a lot of times the notifications don't come through because if you're not using an app, that app shuts down and it doesn't open back up until you go back into it. So you have to kind of come in, and when you're installing your app, you have to go through all the ones you're going to get notifications for and make sure you turn off the battery optimization, make sure you enable the notifications, and it just takes a little bit more to set up on a Chinese ROM than it would a global, because this one, you're going to be good off the bat. You don't have to do anything. Chinese ROM setting up, it's going to take you, anticipate a good maybe hour, maybe 2 hours of dedicated just going through it. If you're just sitting there going straight through, making sure all your apps are set up and everything, you're looking at a good hour, maybe 2, depending on, how much stuff you got in here to make sure this is exactly right for what you want. With the Huawei device, double that. You potentially could be looking at 2 to 4 hours, maybe 6, a day or 2 sometimes, to find solutions on how to get what you want done with this device, and you still might not get it completely all the way there. And again, it's not because the software is bad. This software is not built around Google. There's no Google services on this whatsoever. So you're trying to make it do something that it is not built to do. So everything on this is a workaround. So the hardware, the software, as it pertains to what it's supposed to do, runs flawlessly. I'm not speaking on the Huawei software, but if you need it to do all the Google and global things that you want it to do, that 60 to 70% of the stuff that you're going to do, you are going to spend some time getting that to work. And it's, like I said, you're going to get about 60 to 70% from that time you spent. And for me, like I said, it was too time consuming, and everything, you got to work, update. It just was too much at this point for a main daily driver. So if a Huawei device is a secondary device, just using this thing for content and playing around with it, man, it's amazing. But the headache to get it set up completely the way you want it to is taxing. And once you're done, you're still not going to have it all the way. And then after that, you still might need another phone to get all the things you want out of it, because you need certain aspects and you're just not going to get it out of this. So, it is what it is. You know, spend your money how you want to spend your money. There's no fault in buying any of these types of devices. Durability, all those things are the same. And on that too, the last thing I'll go over that I hear a lot of people talk about is warranty support. Now, these devices, if you buy them from a reputable importer like techaday.net or Trinity, or any of the other people that are out there, there is a warranty on these devices. Usually it's a year, just like everything else. This warranty does not cover accidental damage. So if you got a folding device, any kind of device, you drop it and crack the screen, it ain't covered under warranty. Now, the headache with these devices is when they do break, you can still get them fixed and they're still usable, but you will have to contact your importer, send it back to them. They will facilitate the repair with the company. If it was an accidental repair, you know, you're gonna have to pay for that repair, and then they'll send it back to you. And that's where the kind of pain point on these devices comes in, because they're like, oh my God, you know, I'm not gonna be without a device. I get it. With the Global ROM, I mean, you can just send it out to Samsung. You know, a lot of times they have affiliate stores, iFixit stores, you know, somewhere near you can take it, drop it off, and it's built up around the infrastructure, you know, based here in the US or wherever you're from globally with these devices. But let's not pretend. You can get these devices serviced and fixed. It just takes a little bit more time. Whereas this, you might be able to get serviced and fixed. You know, if you crack a screen, you might be able to get that screen repaired and back to you in, say, let's say a week, best case scenario. In this situation, you're most likely probably looking at somewhere like 3 weeks, because you're the first 1 week of that's going to be shipping it there, getting it back. Assume it's going to be about a week. You know, you're looking anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks, you know, to get this thing fixed, but it can be fixed. It has a warranty. You are not on an island by yourself. And especially if you decide to get it from techaday.net, we are working with some partners to deliver and provide a warranty for import devices. Now, it doesn't change that 3 to 4 weeks, but for a small fee, you will have accidental warranty protection on your device here in the US. So stay tuned, keep an eye out. You know, I got the website being updated right now, and we'll definitely let you know when that warranty service is available and fully ready to go. But it is coming, and like I said, it will help as far as the cost goes on these devices, but as far as the time, there's nothing that anyone can do, because it's got to get shipped back to overseas, China, Singapore, wherever it gets fixed, to be repaired, and then it's got to be shipped back. So again, you're looking best case 2 to 3 weeks to 4 to 6 weeks for this phone to be out to be repaired. A lot of times it's quicker than that, but that's what you would expect. Whereas your Global ROM, you're looking at maybe a week, at max maybe 2, and the phone to be back, because the parts are usually all here unless there's a part shortage for whatever you broke. So again, if you guys have any questions, let me know. I'll have my full review for the Oppo X9 Ultra and this beastly camera system coming here in the next day. But yeah, if you've got any other questions, man, hit me up in the comments, and I will talk to you guys later.